Hello friends, how are you? My name is Corbin Reed and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be taking you through a DIY coffee bar. I'm going to show you how I built pieces that are displaying all this beautiful treats and coffee sort of items that you can use for guests or for yourself to create a festive setup for the holidays to enjoy a coffee or a cocoa or a cocktail, whatever you would like. So if you want some good ideas and a way to achieve this, 90% of this is DIY. So anything I show you here, if you're willing to learn it, you can do it too. If that sounds of interest to you, then please just keep on watching. So I'm gonna put the inspiration for where I'm headed with this DIY on the screen here. I am trying to create a super chic tiered tray that matches some risers for a coffee slash cocktail slash holiday cocoa bar. And one, I have a ton of scrap wood in my garage, and two, I wanted a custom fit for my vintage console, which is where it's gonna go. So this entire thing is gonna be pretty DIY, which is great for you guys because then you hopefully don't have to spend any money if you already have some basic tools like a miter saw. And you can create this custom situation for whether it's a console or just like a counter in your kitchen, some extra kitchen counter space or whatever, you can create this in your home. So I am going to be using, for the tiered tray, I got this leg from Lowe's for like $7. So I'm going to be cutting a square on the bottom and a square on the top, and then trimming it out. Then for the risers, I will show you how I'm gonna make those, but let's just get into it.
So starting off with a tiered tray, I am using scrap plywood pieces. I'm finding center here by using a straight edge and drawing an X and then drilling a hole right into the center of that X. This just makes sure that I'm putting the leg, which is going to serve as like the stabilizer in the bar for the tiered tray, in the right place. This leg from Lowe's came with a screw already sort of inserted in the bottom, so I'm just screwing that into there, and then this is going to get cut up into 3 pieces since this is a 3-tiered tray, and I have a glass that I'm going to be putting on the bottom of the tier and just measuring the right height and then cutting it at that height. You can use any cup if you don't know exactly what glasses you're going to use, but I already knew. So once I had the first third of the leg cut to the size I needed it and screwed into the base, I went ahead and added this other scrap piece of plywood. I just happened to actually have these cut to the sizes I needed, so I can't tell you the exact sizes, but you could do them all the same size. You could make them smaller and smaller as they go up. I kind of think that's a nice look. But you're just going to continue on finding center at the top of that leg that you cut, the first third. And then you're going to drill a pilot hole into the center there. And then find center on that second tier of the tray, drill a pilot hole into there. And then I'm just taking a screw and drilling it through that pilot hole until it pokes out of the bottom, putting some wood glue onto the top of that first third of the leg, and then screwing that screw into the pilot hole that I drilled into the leg. So that is creating the second tier of the tray there. And I'm just testing here to confirm that the cup actually fits. And then I'm finding center once again on what will be the second tier, or the second third of the table leg, drilling a pilot hole there. And I'm tracing this out because I'm actually going to create dowels that are going to pop in to that first third of the leg. And I need to know where to drill into. So you're going to drill through. I drilled 3 pilot holes. I was kind of winging this as I went, but you're going to drill 2 pilot holes opposite of center. So one right of center, one left of center. Then you're going to screw the screws into those pilot holes halfway, and that creates these dowels. Now, if you actually have dowels, you don't need to use screws. I didn't have dowels. I didn't feel like going to the hardware store, so I just winged it. And I'm putting some wood glue on the bottom of the screws, and then within that circle that I drew, I'm making 2 dots so I know exactly where to drill my pilot holes. Now you can use a piece of painter's tape the length of those dowels to know how deep down you need to go into those dots that you made there, so that the dowels will fit perfectly into there. And then I'm taking the leg and cutting it one more time, because there's going to be one more tray that's going to go on top of there. This took a few tries of like drilling the pilot holes and drilling them again, but essentially those holes go into that bottom wood table leg to create like a nice tight fit. So once I finally got it, I needed to let this dry and cure, so I just took some paint cans because my clamps wouldn't work, and I let that dry without disturbing it for about an hour. And now while that was drying, I went ahead and started trimming out the plywood. These have rough edges. If you don't use hardwood and you use plywood like me, you're going to need some trim. I'm just using a half round that I got from Lowe's as well. And you can see it just cleans up the edges really nicely there. And I'm cutting at a 45-degree angle on my miter saw. So essentially this is what it's going to look like when you cut 45s on all ends of those trim pieces. And then I'm just using wood glue and painter's tape to adhere those half rounds onto the raw edges of the plywood. And you could use brad nails. My brad nailer is broken. My Ryobi brad nailer keeps breaking, so I'm just using painter's tape. Now, for the final tier, since this is going to be a 3-tiered tray, once that was all dried, I just repeated this process one more time with that 3rd tier there, and literally found center and drilled a pilot hole into that top leg piece there, and screwed it in center. And this is what it looked like once I was done there. And you can stop there, but because the table leg, I cut it into 3 pieces. For the decorative piece, I just took that top part and glued it onto that final 3rd riser there. For the risers, I am using a scrap piece of plywood. You could use a piece of hardwood. You don't have to use plywood, but I'm using a scrap piece of plywood that I cut down to the size that would work for my table. So I can't really give you the measurements of what I used here because honestly, I just eyeballed it. But essentially you're going to need 1 long piece for the top of the riser and then 2 shorter pieces for the legs. So that's what I'm cutting down here. I think that my legs were 3 inches or 2 inches for the bottom riser, and then I cut a second one at like 5 inches for the top riser so that one will be taller than the other. Now this is just a piece of pine, and I am using this as my trim. Again, these are plywood edges. They're raw and they're very ugly, so I'm using hardwood as my trim. You could also use edge banding. Then you have to iron it on, and it's a little bit more work. So I'm just sanding all of my trim pieces down, my hardwood trim pieces, and I will be assembling the legs for these risers using pocket hole screws. This is just my Craig jig. I drill in those pocket holes. And then I use my driver to attach them with the screws. And these are specific Craig screws. If you go to the hardware store and buy a Craig pocket hole jig, they come with screws that can fit that driver head. They're not just like standard hardwood screws or wood screws. And this is what the risers looked like when I was done. I had already had these jars, so I was just testing out what they would look like, if they fit. When I did make the risers, I did make sure that they were going to be the right length and width to fit these jars and also be able to fit anything extra that I wanted to put on there. I attached the trim the same way with wood glue and painter's tape. For staining, this is a pretty simple process. You just need to sand the pieces down. I started off with an 80 grit, moved up to 120 grit, and finished with a 220 grit. This just ensures like a super smooth finish, and that I was using actually the plywood that I had was pre-finished birch, so it comes with like a sealant on it. So I was trying to get that off, which was a pain. But if you buy unfinished plywood, you're not going to have to worry about sanding so intensely. After I sanded, I go in with a pre-stain, which is basically just a wood conditioner, which ensures that the stain that you put on afterwards will go on smoothly and you can use less product, and it just conditions the wood after sanding and make sure everything just lays on there evenly. I'm using the stain Special Walnut by Minuwax, and I have this microfiber sponge thing that makes staining nice and easy and just helps the stain go on more smoothly. And I will be staining all 3 pieces in this color. Now, because I used a trim that is a different species than the plywood, I did get some discoloration between the trim sides and the top. And the same goes for the tiered riser, but it really didn't bother me. It just looks like a little more rustic, a little more handmade. If you use edge banding, you would probably get a more uniform look. So it's just up to you. I didn't want to buy extra materials. I just wanted to use what I had. These are all pieces that I already had in my garage, except for the table leg. I had to buy that. And then I polyurethaned it. Next up is the table runner. I am not a sewing teacher, so all I can tell you is I had some scrap velvet fabric. I sewed it together to the length and the width that would work for my vintage console, and created one long piece of fabric. And I also sewed some ribbon onto the edges. So if you are a sewer, you can make this table runner very easily with fabric. This is the finished product. If you're not a sewer, just go buy a table runner from Home Goods. But I just used some scrap fabric and some ribbon that I had lying around. And this is actually fabric that I used to make a slip cover for my couch, which you will see in part 2 of my Living Room Decorate with Me. I do go into more detail on that. So this is just nice that it can match my sofa. Since this is an open concept space, it just sort of coordinates. But if you're buying it, you can just buy a velvet table runner for your console. It adds a nice touch to have that layering. And now for the best part, styling. I am bringing in these pieces. I just love the way these turned out. I love the dark wood. It's so classy and it feels so festive. And the best part about doing a DIY like this is, like, you can't go to the store and find pieces that are going to coordinate this well. So doing the DIY just ensures that not only are the measurements going to be custom to the fit for your piece, that your coffee bar that you're putting this on, but you get the exact stain you want, you get the exact heights you want, the exact finish. Everything is custom to your space. So I did do this DIY. It took me about 2 days to finish. The building of it took 1 day, maybe about 4 hours, and then the staining took another probably 4 hours between dry times and all of that. So this is a vintage lamp that I already have, which I think goes so well in any season. It's like a red transferware ceramic lamp that I actually found it at a thrift store for a few dollars, and it's so beautiful. Now I'm going in with my Nespresso machine, which is great for guest self-serving, and this is a milk frother that can like do cold foam or hot foam. I'll leave both of these linked down below. These glasses I got from World Market. They're these candy cane inlay glasses. They're a dupe for the ones at Anthropologie at a much better price. I'm pretty sure these are sold out, but if I find similar ones that are dupes, I will link those down below. These are some gingerbread mugs that I got from Walmart, and my Pottery Barn gingerbread mugs that I picked up this season as well, which I love. That tree is from Hobby Lobby. I got this hot cocoa mug with the lid from Big Lots, which is just cool because I like the lid. It kind of can keep your drink warm. And all these mugs and cups together just create a really beautiful festive display. For the other side, I went ahead and put out some gingerbread cookies. Those are Mug Buddies from Trader Joe's, and the other ones are by Stouffer's. I'll leave those linked down below. These are stirrers that you can put in your coffee or in a cup of hot milk to create an instant like latte or an instant cocoa with all the seasonings and everything. And then in that brass tin are the Nespresso pods. That is my little sugar bowl. Again, anything I can link that I'm showing here for you, I will. And then I'm just putting some cocoa in this glass and wood airtight sealable container. And then I found these really cute tree ceramic spoons from the Target Dollar Spot. Those plates are from the Hearth and Hand collection. They are not from this season, they are from last season, but they're just slipping under the riser there, these little dessert-sized plates in case anybody needs it for cookies that I have out. And that is it, you guys. This is my festive, cozy, holiday cocoa, cookie, coffee bar. You can personalize this however you'd like. This is just how I laid mine out. So I think it's going to be perfect for guests during the holiday season to be able to serve themselves. For me in the mornings to just get into the holiday spirit for my family. And I love the look, and this is definitely going to be a holiday staple. I will keep these pieces that I created forever. So I hope you found some inspiration in this, and I hope you try it yourself.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching me build these pieces for my DIY coffee bar. The whole point of this is to give you guys ideas to do holiday DIYs for yourself. This is going to be a staple for sure in my house. It's just really nice to have guests be able to serve themselves and just create festive moments for me to be able to drink my coffee, and for my family to be able to drink coffee or enjoy cocoa or whatever. So anything that is linkable, I will link down below in the description box. And if you are not already subscribed to my channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And be sure to follow me over on Instagram, where I post more like minute-to-minute updates and things of that nature, and a lot of things that don't actually make it over onto YouTube. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy holidays.